Cool. Hey. Hey, it's Adam with Ri3D at Purdue, here giving kind of our dinner recap and a few things we've learned about the game today. So starting with the robot, we have finalized our design. We've got a few little things to show. So first of all, we chose to store our electronics on the bottom. We're referring to this as a brain pan. Now, the main purpose of this is it makes it really easy to flip the robot up and see all the electronics. But the other nice thing is now, since there's no real way to fall on a game piece this year, such as prior years, we have this large, entirely open frame. So whatever we choose to put on top, there's really nothing to interfere. We don't have to, make sure we can fit a Rio, a PDP, a Pigeon, any of those electronics that we really need to have, but are really big and kind of clunky. Now, on top of that, we also chose to put a second pan, which we are referring to as the belly pan. But it's really more of just a safeguard. The goal of this is that if we happen to fall on a coral or some other freak accident happens, rather than directly hit electronics, we first hit this pan, which is another sheet of polycarb, to kind of make sure that we don't fall and hurt the robot too much. We're currently exploring, we think there's a possible radio issue, but that is kind of the main focus there. We've also gone ahead and we've officially machined our intake plates. So this is kind of an example of what they look like. We think this will be about 16-ish inches wide, and it'll allow us to pick up both the coral and algae, which we'll show in a later video. I'm going to pass it off to Matthew so we can show a cool thing he learned about how the coral interact with the reef.
Yes. So with the coral, if you're looking into scoring the coral on the reef, it's kind of easier than you might think, because for reference, the balance point with no momentum on the reef is approximately horizontal. Technically, there's a slight angle down, but yeah. If you have enough momentum or just a little bit of momentum, it'll just push it on. So you could probably get away with a little bit of tolerance here. And then for the top, for reference, it's about a 45-degree angle, and that's where it bounces. So yeah.
So scoring the coral is much easier than it maybe originally seemed. Now, going on to our other game piece, the algae, we've noticed, we've not really put too much pressure on these. We've not put them through any strong mechanisms. We've developed a lot of these weak spots. So if you'll notice, most of it is green and there's a decent bit of pressure and pushback. Then there are these white spots, which are noticeably weaker. But I spin it around. I believe we have a few bigger ones. Somewhere there's a bigger one where it's clearly kind of fading and stretching a bit. And it's very, very weak compared to what's around it. So I can almost poke through it. It's also, looking at it, kind of developed a more of an egg shape. I don't know how this is going to work in competition. Obviously, we're going to have to deal with an irregular kind of sphere to some degree, but I'm not fully sure if that means this is going to be very fragile in the game, or they're going to be replaced very frequently, such as the cubes in 2023, because they were so easy to shred and accidentally pop. My biggest concern with this is that if you are pushing it along the ground in front of your robot or something and it manages to get shredded open, that's then going to be right near your drivetrain to kind of limit you or otherwise make it much harder for you to finish the match. Now, the last thing to kind of wrap up our dinner recap, and we'll be posting a video of the actual test later. We loaded up a cart with give or take 70 pounds of various supplies and shoved it into this because we were very curious. Obviously, hitting this is bad. I'm going to estimate it at maybe 20 or so pounds. But truly, how much damage is it going to do? Now, this is about a ½ inch too high, but pushing the cart through, this is a big hit. We scraped up our cart a little bit, and you see the swings a little bit. But truthfully, I think we're going to see some season-ending moments. Obviously, with every game, there's some unique endgame challenges, and sometimes things don't go well. But 100%, I'm predicting now, we will see a moment where a field goes silent because a team hits this and it wrecks your whole upper frame. You really need to be careful driving around these. There is no real way to avoid them if you're over that 30 inches or so, even in the shallow height. So if you accidentally hit one of those, it's going to be very brutal for anything. It is genuinely probably safer to run full speed into a wall with your bumper than to hit this with any sort of mechanism. Now, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube, on the Chief Delphi build thread, or in the Twitch chat or a Q&A forum. We'll be happy to answer any questions as they get published. Thank you all.